another video. Last time we left off with the irrepressible conflict, talking about the build-up to the American Civil War and all the things that it really entailed. The differences in people's opinions of certain ideas and a lot of the people that would rise to prominence during it and everything that kind of happened. But we are now on to the Republican triumph. I'm just going to check to see. Okay, this is going to be a shorter video, not like yesterday, which was a little bit longer. But in 1860, the Democratic Party, which had dominated politics for 60 years, suffered a division. A convention was held at Charleston, South Carolina, the very center of pro-slavery sentiment. Douglas was the leading candidate for the presidential nomination, but his insistence that slavery could in fact, if not in form, be nullified by the failure of a territory to enact a slave code was an anathema to the South. After 57 futile ballots, the party split. The Northern Democrats nominated Douglas, the Southern Democrats the Vice President John Breckinridge of Kentucky. This gave the Republicans their chance. William Henry Seward was the front runner, but in his political career, he had made too many enemies. Other aspirants were considered too radical or too conservative. An obvious compromise candidate was Lincoln, popular, a good speaker, moderate in opinion, and from the key state of Illinois. As a British writer succinctly summed up the situation, the politicians did their usual deal and stumbled on the noble, tremendous accident of Abraham Lincoln. Hannibal Hamlin of Maine was nominated for vice president. There was also a fourth party in the field, the Constitutional Union Party. Frightened by the specter of national disruption, offered no platform at all except the Union and the Constitution. The voter thus had four choices: territorial freedom with the Republicans, local option on the slavery with Douglas Democrats, slavery in all territories with Breckinridge, or ignore the whole issue with Bell of Tennessee. It was probably the most important election in American history. Lincoln was elected by a clear majority in the Electoral College and had a plurality, but no overall majority of the popular vote. Douglas, the runner-up on the popular vote, carried only Missouri and part of New Jersey. Bell won some border slave states. Breckinridge carried the bulk of the South. Lincoln nearly all of the North. The Republicans had strengthened their position by adding to the anti-slavery cry a homestead policy in the territories by which a settler could, after a certain number of years, gain a free hold on government land without having to pay for it. They also approved a protective tariff, which probably insured them from Pennsylvania. In those days, there were about 4 months between an election and the inauguration. Buchanan, though his party had been defeated at the polls, still held office. How in this interim would the South react? Would it accept the verdict of the polls or secede? And what would the president do in the latter case? Now let us look at this new man from the West of whom the nation at large still knew so little. That will be tomorrow's video when we talk about Abraham Lincoln. But yeah, this election has a major problem. The Union Party, they were kind of goofy. realistically, they didn't have a point. And they were those that really didn't want to really deal with this. They just wanted to try to keep things as they are, not shake the boat too much. But at this point, the boat was shaking. The Democrats splitting really, really screwed them. Um, Douglas had probably a better chance to win than Breckinridge, just realistically, over the whole nation. But the difference in opinion between the sides of Democrats really is what does them in. And you can even see that during the Civil War. For instance, Andrew Johnson, the second vice president with Lincoln, he's a Northern Democrat. Well, not Northern, but he's a Democrat, a Union Democrat. He thought staying with the Union was the best idea, and that's the reason Lincoln chooses him. But he's a good example of this, of that there was just a difference of opinion that the South could not, the South and the North could not reconcile on. But yeah, Lincoln wins pretty handily, and it's just really not that much of a surprise. He was by far the best candidate to be chosen, that could have been chosen. But now we'll get into the pictures. So below, President Buchanan did not want Stephen A. Douglas to be nominated for president on the Democratic ticket, but Douglas was triumphant, and the Illinois Bantam conquered the old cock of the White House. Lincoln, at the right, is standing in the wings. Yeah, you can see Douglas, Buchanan there. But yeah, it's like, you have these fights between the party, and it's a division of Douglas is very popular. Buchanan, not so much, really, especially by this point. And even Breckinridge being part of Buchanan's whole group is just, it's just not that helpful at this point. Really, really should not, they should not have gone with him. It's just a bad choice. At the top here is a montage of the members of the 36th Senate of 1860. See all the individuals. Some of them look a little angrier than others. Just saying. A little angrier than everyone else. And then at the bottom here is an etching. The Last Hours of Congress, March 1859. Yeah, this is a conflict from which there is no reconciliation. Not yet. Everyone's just kind of upset. They want their voice, they want their opinion to be right. And so no matter what, you're not going to win. There are the moderates. For instance, Lincoln is a good example of that. That's why he gets chosen. The Republicans are able to do something that the Democrats do not. They choose the candidate that is best suited for winning the presidency. Even if they don't necessarily agree with Lincoln on everything, or Lincoln isn't the most radical like maybe they would have wanted, or things like that. What they needed was a moderate. Lincoln is that moderate, because he can see both sides and he understands, like, hey, no, and he even says during the election, he says, I'm not going to end slavery, because he wasn't. He had no intention of ending it. Him, like many others of the time, thought it'll die its natural death. It will happen. Now, is that actually true? Who can really say? But it was a majority opinion by a lot of people. It was a majority opinion by the founding fathers, even. But obviously, we see that didn't work out that way. But that's going to do it for this video. If you guys liked the video, leave a like. If you have any ways I could improve these videos, leave a comment down below. I always appreciate your feedback. And as always, subscribe. It really does help out the channel. Thank you.